When we were first married, our combined monthly student loan bill was actually higher than our mortgage. Yeah, we were so young, so in love, and so in debt. And that's why Barack has fought so hard to increase student aid and keep interest rates down, because he wants every young person to fulfill their promise and be able to attend college without a mountain of debt.
First Lady Michelle Obama got the Democratic convention kicked off in Charlotte last night. Besides talking about student loans, she also pressed the case among women to vote for President Obama. Laura Meckler now joins us in Charlotte. Laura, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Laura, tell us, how did Michelle Obama really press the case for women to really stay in the president's camp, and was she successful?
You know, I think her speech actually went beyond women. There was a lot last night that was geared specifically to women, and obviously Michelle Obama is someone who appeals to a lot of American women. But what her case really was is to say that, you know, hey, we're regular people. We've struggled with the everyday struggles that a lot of Americans deal with, too. We can relate to that. And that, of course, is one of President Obama's greatest advantages with the electorate, is that sense that he understands your problems. And then she related those very personal things to policies that the president has supported.
What policies in particular?
Well, for instance, that clip you just played about student loans, I think, is a good example. She also talked about equal pay for equal work. She talked about President Obama's grandmother, who worked at a bank and saw people promoted over her, men who she had trained and who were no more qualified than she was, and they would get promotions over her. And that was a way for her to segue into the importance of equal pay and the Lilly Ledbetter Act, which President Obama signed in the first days of his administration. So she was really trying to both relate to voters and also connect it to policy.
And I also heard her with a soundbite in her speech talking about the freedom to love who you want to love, which of course was probably geared toward gays. And we also, of course, we had, no, go ahead.
Well, no, I think it's really interesting. There was a lot of talk from the podium last night about gay rights and references to, as you said, the freedom to love who you want to love. And that's something that President Obama talks about on the stump, which I think is sort of a sign of how far this issue has come, that is truly out in the mainstream within the Democratic Party. Obviously, this does appeal to the base, not just gay voters, but also other liberals who support gay rights. But there must be a calculation here that this is not alienating to the independent voters that they're trying to pick up at the same time.
Speaking, let's talk about another important demographic for Democrats, Hispanic voters. And of course, we have a clip of Julian Castro, San Antonio's mayor, who gave the first keynote by a Latino in a convention last night. Let's give a listen.
Mitt Romney, quite simply, doesn't get it. A few months ago, he visited a university in Ohio and gave students there a little entrepreneurial advice. Start a business, he said. But how? Borrow money if you have to from your parents, he told them. Gee, why didn't I think of that?
Laura, for you, what were the highlights of Mr. Castro's speech?
Well, I think that he did, in the same vein as the First Lady, what he did was both reach out to Hispanic voters by his very presence. He talked about his own personal story, about his grandmother immigrating to the United States from Mexico as a young girl, and about his mother who struggled, who would never have imagined that he and his twin brother would be where they are today. So he talked about that very personal struggle that a lot of Hispanic voters can relate to. But he also talked about these broader challenges and economic challenges for the middle class, which is, of course, the overarching message of the Obama campaign. And that clip that you just played is a really good example of that. He was both sort of mocking Mitt Romney's wealth, which was another sort of theme. And obviously, that was the implicit comparison in the First Lady's speech, even though she never said that. Julian Castro did say it. He said, you know, essentially, Mitt Romney doesn't get it. So he delivered a very tough speech. It wasn't just gauzy sort of, you know, only in America stuff. It was a very tough speech with a lot of attacks as well.
Now, there was one, it's important to note that while they were appealing to a lot of different voters with which they have an advantage, there was one demographic that may have been alienated. The Democrats may have alienated Jews. Talk about the Jerusalem issue. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and that in the Democratic platform, and what changed and how that may have alienated Jews.
Right. So this is not something that happened on the podium or at the convention per se. This is something in the platform. Now, normally it's sort of funny because platforms have basically zero power, but they are statements of what a party's values are, and they can cause controversy, as we saw with the Republicans. In this case, we found out yesterday that the Democratic platform deleted language that had said that Jerusalem was the capital of Israel. Now, Israel views Jerusalem as the capital, but the U.S. policy has always been that this is an issue that needs to be resolved in final status negotiation with the Palestinians, because the Palestinians also claim Jerusalem as their capital. So that's long been sort of U.S. foreign policy. But separately, there's been kind of political policy, if you will, on behalf of the Democratic Party. So this is language that, had been in the platform for a long time. Democratic officials explained that the reason it was changed was to try to make it consistent with what White House policy is. But it seems like they sort of may have irritated, I don't know if they went so far as to alienate, but certainly irritated strong supporters of Israel who are already skeptical of President Obama because of the fact that he's sort of taken a tough line with Israel, particularly early in his administration, insisting, for instance, on a freeze in settlements in order to restart the peace talks.
Okay.
So this could be a problem for him.
So it wasn't a perfect night, a little bit of a mixed night. Laura, thank you so much. Now, of course, for some behind-the-scenes footage, we also have that for you. Be sure to check out Wall Street Journal's World Stream blog. Mark Scheffler caught up, for instance, with Massachusetts Attorney General Martha Coakley. Let's give a listen to that.
This is a real issue. This was supposed to be an election about jobs, not limiting people's rights, and it's become an important issue in Senator Warren's, soon-to-be Senator Warren's election. I think it's an issue for electing President Obama, and I think women between now and election day are going to pay close attention to what is at stake for them.
And of course, for more great behind-the-scenes clips, be sure to check out the World Stream blog on WSJ.com. And of course, we'll have live coverage tonight of the convention. Alan Murray will be here on set at 9 o'clock, so be sure to stick with us for that.